Start on that. It is 6 o'clock. This is the City of Brainerd City Council special budget meeting and public hearing. I will call the meeting to order, and Administrator Bergman, please call the roll.
Johnson.
Here.
Pritchett.
Here.
Stingline. Erickson.
Here.
O'Day.
Here.
Stunek.
Present.
Bevins.
Here.
And Badeau.
Here.
We are underway, and we have one agenda item this evening, and that is the 2022 budget and levy public hearing. Is there anything staff wants to say before we start the public hearing?
If I could just do like a 10-15 minute presentation
I think that's
of the
perfect.
budget.
Thank you. Connie Hillman, Finance Director.
Thank you. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to discuss the City of Brainerd's 2022 budget and levy and to allow for public input. This is not the meeting to discuss the valuation that has been placed on properties. That meeting is held in May. Questions regarding the property valuation and classifications can be directed to the Land Services Department at the county, and their number is 824-1010. So Minnesota's property tax system is very complex, so this is a simplified version of it. Everything starts with the estimated market value of your property. In Crow Wing County, that is determined by the assessor's office. A statutory formula is then applied based on how the property is classified. It can be commercial, residential, homestead, etc. And this gives us to the tax capacity of the city. So this is the sum of all the different parcels in the city. The city council sets the city's levy, which is the city's income or revenue, divided by the total tax capacity of the city equals the city's tax rate. The tax rate is then applied to the individual parcel's tax capacity, and this equals the owner's property tax bill. Taxing jurisdictions such as the cities, counties, and school districts set a levy in dollars. Taxing jurisdictions do not set the tax rate. Your property value determines your proportionate share of the dollars that goes to each jurisdiction, and the tax rate is the result of the levy dollars needed and the total tax capacity of the jurisdiction. So everything starts with the estimated market value. The estimated market value of your property on January 2nd, 2021, it is what is used to calculate the amount you pay in taxes for 2022. How is this value determined? One of the main items that the assessor's office uses is the sales ratio study, which analyzes the sales that took place within the time frame of October 2019 to September 2020. This study determines the value for your property as of January 2nd, 2021. In March, you get the valuation notices, and then in May, they hold the Board of Appeal and Equalization. This is when you can contest the value that's been placed on your property. In November, you get proposed tax notices, and then in December, we are required to hold the tax levy hearing, which is why we are here tonight. In March of 2022, you'll get your actual property tax statement, which is your bill, and the first half is due in May, and the second half is due in October. So what does the estimated market value look like for the city of Brainerd? Here's a graph breaking it out between residential, commercial, and other property. Overall, the estimated market value had a 5.4% increase for pay year 2022 over pay year 2021. Another item to note is that the commercial industrial property also had a slight increase for pay year 2022. The past several years, we've seen a slight decline. Here's looking at the estimated market values in a little different. You can see that the commercial and industrial property is at the same percentage of the total market value for both years, which is different than what we've seen. So now let's talk about the tax capacity of the city. So again, the estimated market value, you're taking the estimated market value, applying the statutory formula based on classification, and this is how we arrive at a tax capacity of $8,928,534 for the city for pay year 2022. This is an increase of about $510,598. So what does it mean that the tax capacity of the city increased? If we have the city's levy and there's no change to the levy, divided by the increase in tax capacity, this yields a decrease in the city's tax rate. We'll talk more about the city's tax rate a little later. So now that we've looked at the estimated market value and the tax capacity of the city, the next thing we need to look at is the city's levy. The city determines its levy through the budgeting process. We estimate all of the expenditures. We estimate all of the non-property tax revenues, and the difference between the two is the levy needed. And budgeting is basically planning and prioritizing goals for the coming year based on experiences in the past year or years. So we look at all of our operating expenditures. You can see that personnel services take up a big portion of our budget. We provide a service, we don't build things, so a lot of it is personnel services. We see a significant increase between the 2 years. We did add an additional full-time position for an HR assistant. We added an additional temporary employee for ITGIS and a temporary employees to handle the elections. We're budgeting for 26 Warren police officers, but planning on getting to 27 during the year. And we changed the way we handled the reimbursement received for HR services from BPU. Rather than offsetting the payroll expenditures, we will record it as a revenue. Transfers out also increased between the 2 years. Actually, it decreased, but by a significant amount. And this is due to the timing factor between what we use to bill the Fire Advisory Board members. And last year we had an increase of about $100,000 due to the same reason. We also need to consider our capital needs. This levy in the capital fund is used to fund equipment needs for all departments other than the fire department. It is used to fund all city-owned facilities. The fire equipment needs are funded through transfers out and are part of the amount charged to the entities that contract with the city for fire protection. The total capital purchases budgeted for 2022 total $2,017,500, excluding the equipment for the enterprise funds. This is a summary of the capital purchases that are currently being budgeted for 2022. We also need to consider what we need for our debt levy. The debt levy that we levy for pay year 2022 is to pay for the August 2022 and February 2023 payments. The city had 2 bond issues that will be paid off after we make the February payment. The city is also budgeting to issue debt for the city's portion of the 2022 construction projects, and we have included an amount in the debt levy to structure that debt issue. We also have to consider other levies that are set up by the charter or that the city has to fund. You will notice that there's no levy for the hydrant fund. The city charter was amended in 2021 to remove this levy as it was a pass-through to the general fund. This is now just part of the overall tax levy that the city needs. We'll see a decrease in revenue when we look at the budgeted revenues as well. The total 2022 budgeted expenses total $14,473,183. This is a decrease of $152,044 from the 2021 budget. If the charter hadn't been changed, we would have saw an increase in the expenditures. So now that we've looked at the total budget expenditures, we now need to look at the non-property tax revenues. The total budgeted non-property tax revenues total $8,202,357, which is an estimated decrease of $361,707 compared to the 2021 budget. We see the decrease in other revenues due to the change in the charter eliminating the hydrant levy, and we see an increase in revenue from other governments due to the change in recording the reimbursement from BPU and the HRA for HR services. Another item that we need to consider in setting the levy is the use or addition to the fund balance. 2022 is an election year, and the city budgets $15,000 a year for elections that are held every other year. Therefore, in 2022, the city will use $15,000 of fund balance that it banked in 2021. So the amount between the budgeted expenditures and non-property tax revenues equals the levy needed for the city. And for 2022, this amount is $6,255,826, which is a 2% increase over the 2021 levy. The 2021 preliminary levy was adopted in September at $6,255,826. This is a 2% increase over the 2021 levy, or $122,663 of additional money. It was the preliminary levy that was used and sent out for the proposed property tax statements that you just received. The final levy can be lower than the preliminary levy, but it cannot be higher. So the recap just showed that the city has a balanced budget with the final levy being equal to the preliminary levy. This is not using any additional fund balance generated from the 2020 and 2021 levies. At the November workshop, the council discussed about reducing the levy lower than the preliminary levy of 2%. Possible options and cons of each were discussed. Staff was given the direction to prepare tonight's hearing with the proposed final levy with a 2% increase. This just gives a history of the past levies done by the city. And one of the things that staff is hoping and council has worked towards is to avoid these peaks and valleys that we had early on in this, between 2011 and 2016. The city has over 50 different funds, but it does not officially adopt a budget for all the funds. So we're going to look at our revenue broken down in a little bit different. This excludes the sanitary and storm sewer funds. So we have what the city levies, and then we have the biggest portion of funding, which comes from intergovernmental revenue. This is from grants and revenue paid for by other governments. The biggest portion comes from the state in the form of local government aid. In 2022, the LGA certified to the city is $4,615,097, and it's just under $60,000 more than what the city will receive in 2021. Then we have revenues from charges for services and fines. We have other taxes, license and permits, and miscellaneous revenues such as interest and assessments. It is important to note that 61.4% of the budgeted revenues come from sources other than property taxes. If we look at our expenses, the general public safety, parks, and street and sewer fund are what we consider the working funds, and the activities from these funds are supported by the levy. We also budget for transit services, we budget for capital, debt service, road maintenance, and other. So now we've looked at the city's levy, and if we look at the city's tax rate. With a levy of $6,255,826, the city's proposed 2022 tax rate is 70.653%. This rate is proposed estimated decrease of 2.776% from the 2021 tax rate, which was 73.429%. For every $10,000 the levy is reduced, the estimated reduction to the tax rate is 0.113%. So that tax rate is applied to the individual tax capacity and equals the owner's tax bill. So let's look at the impact to our residents. If we look at a residential homestead that had estimated market value of $140,000 in 2021, they paid an annual city tax liability of $847.37. Assuming that there was no change to the property of the value, this table shows the estimated change in the city tax liability based on various changes to the city levy. With a 2% increase in the levy, the homeowner would expect to see a decrease in the amount due to the city of about $32 a year. This again assumes that there was no change to the value of the property, and we know that this assumption is unlikely. This slide, we use a 2% levy, and various assumptions assume changes to the estimated market value of the property. The slide earlier in the presentation showed that the residential properties increased by 6.3%. So with a 6.3% increase to the estimated market value and a 2% increase in the levy, the property owner would see a $35.61 year increase in the city's tax liability. For every dollar that a residential property owner pays in taxes, 22 cents goes to Crow Wing County, 1 cent goes to other, which is Region 5 in the HRA, 28 cents goes to the school, and 49 cents to the city. Now if we look at the impact to a commercial property owner, in 2021 with an estimated market value of $363,500, they paid an annual city tax liability of $4,787.57. Assuming that there was no change to the property value, this table shows that the estimated change to the city's tax liability based on various changes to the city. With a 2% increase in the levy, the commercial property owner would expect to see a decrease in the amount due to the city of $181 per year, using a 2% increase in the levy, and again, assuming no change to the value of property, which again is unlikely. So if we look at this slide, using a 2% increase and various assumptions to the changes in the estimated market value of the property for a commercial property owner. Again, the slide earlier showed that the total commercial property increased by 3.6%. So with a 3.6% increase in estimated market value and a 2% increase in the levy, the property owner for a commercial property would see a $3.92 a year increase in the city's tax liability. For every dollar that a commercial property owner pays in taxes, 18 cents goes to the state, 19 cents to Crow Wing County, 1 cent to Region 5 in the HRA, 20 cents to the school district, and 42 cents to the city. The final budget and levy will be adopted at the December 20th council meeting, and the levy must be certified to the county auditor by December 28th. So we can leave it out, open up the public hearing if you so desire.
Can I ask if any council members have questions?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Council, thank you. Any council members have any questions on Finance Director Hillman's presentation? Any questions? Okay. So hearing none, we will open the public hearing at 6:17 and ask if there's anybody in the public, and that includes anybody online. Are we online, John? We are. Okay, and so if you're online and you have a comment you'd like to make, *3 notifies us that you'd like to speak, and then when we recognize you, *6 will unmute your microphone. Anybody in the audience wish to speak? We'll ask that first. Normally we keep it to 3 to 5 minutes, but tonight I think you can have a couple hours. Anybody online wish to speak on the budget and levy public hearing? What's that?
It's all staff.
It's all staff. Okay. I'll ask for a third time. Anybody wish to speak on tonight's budget and levy presentation? Hearing none, we will close the public hearing at 6:17 and move to item 4, which is to adjourn to the Planning Commission meeting for further discussion on the zoning code update Wednesday, December 15th. That's in 2 days at 6 p.m. here in council chambers. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Johnson. Second.
Second, motion by Johnson, second by Stunek. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. We'll vote on this on the 20th.